I was asking about the origin of the costume, and it's a Middle Eastern costume from what period?
Middle Ages.
Somewhere in the Middle Ages, 1400s possibly. Okay, very cool. Okay, so what we're going to be doing, what we're going to be drawing and working on today is how we harmonize our marks. Okay, last week we looked at line, mass, and form, and we're looking to create marks in our drawing that that either described line for itself or mass or form. Okay. Now the question is you can use these three different types of lines or bias your lines in those ways, but how do you harmonize them throughout the overall painting? So it's not all one, all the other grouped, or just being conscious of the lines and type of lines you're using. So you can, that's a good pose. That's a good pose if you want to do just that too. So what we'll do is now, kind of line, I'll just talk about the lines that I'm putting in. This might be just a general gesture line that's going to be his attitude or alignment of him, and then I'm going to create some other lines that are going to be more measurement lines, really, to see where I am along this pose. Right. This is a little bit of an angle here at his hip or his waist over his hips. And then out here. Okay. So I'm kind of just getting my placement right at the moment. These lines will be kind of overtaken, really. I think I just want to understand where my proportions are and how I'm going to work with those. So I'm just going to get a general idea of where these masses are. And then I'm going to start diving into it here. Okay, so here's my the general emphasis on what's going on. Now I'm going to look at how do I want to manage or harmonize these marks. Am I going to do things? Let me take care of this again. Am I going to look at creating rhythms through the forms? Am I going to use patterns of the shapes or patterns on the shapes, more like masses and stuff, and how those things work? I've got a lot of options, and and you can choose what you want to do. It's just the idea with all of this is finding a way to be consistent. Whether you're using light and shadow or whatever. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do a bit of light and shadow, and then some patterns. Okay, so maybe what I'll do is I'll get a little bit of a shadow shape working on here. And I'll play with this shadow shape. I don't know it'll work. And if I put the shadow shapes up there, I'm just going to kind of play off of those and maybe work them into just his, maybe in his chest area and torso. And then I'm going to create an effect in his, or create a difference in his garment so we can take advantage of some of those patterns. I'll just make this a dark shape. I'm going to make this arm over here subordinate because it's going to be pushed into the shadow over there. So I'm going to go ahead and make that subordinate in here. Then what I'm going to do is, as long as I'm creating a little bit of difference between his physical form and his clothing, I'm going to change up the fabric just a little bit, or not change it up, but I'm going to describe it a little differently. And I'm going to try to bring those two things together. The form in his figure and also the description of the mask, but I'm going to, in his outfit. There's a pattern to this, so let me get a little pattern on here. Let me make this a whole mass. Let me just do that. There we go. That will make sense. Okay. Again, I'm looking to look for patterns. I want to look for patterns that are going to be talking about, if I say some of the shadow shapes in here, maybe I'm going to make these all dark in here. And this a little bit lighter. Just so I can kind of read those things. I'm going to do the same thing with his pants down here. Put this into shadow here. And then take advantage of some of the folds. So I have a little light side and a shadow side in there. So I'm playing this up on on the material a little bit down in here. Okay, so now I need to just kind of tie this together. Okay, so there's a strong difference in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create it. Since I created a line on here, I'm going to create a texture working in a zone like this. Okay. And what I might do is I might just play this even just along. Maybe I'll just do it along some of these. Along some of the edges of the form in here. Maybe I'll just kind of play almost like it's overexposed and kind of burnt out there a little bit and see what that looks like. And if it doesn't work, and I can always change it. To build the continuity in there, I'm going to go ahead and put some darks in there just a little bit. Okay. This one I'm going to try to keep more line work. I'll just work a little bit more of the line work in the last one. Okay. Again, I'll try to keep a little bit more line movement going on in this image. So, and it's really kind of just making the choice of what you want to use to depict just depict and interpret what's going on. So I'm staying with line throughout this, just to kind of just play a bigger part, line to play a bigger part in what's going on here. Get a little bit of line here just to show how the form wraps around there. There you go. More kind of a pipe fold down there. If I open some of the lines, it's going to create some little passages here that you're going to be able to move in and out of. That might be kind of interesting too. So I'm going to kind of play with some of that. Okay. Okay. And I'm really looking at the kind of the character of the line a little bit more than the anatomical correctness of all of it. I am concerned about getting things in the right place and the right position, but I'm also looking at just the design of the lines and stuff. So in this case, if I'm establishing this kind of a line work in here, I can give I can give more bias to it if I, expand maybe just the darkness of some of it. And then it's going to be a case of, if most of the rest of this is all line work, I've created a light and dark pattern with his hair in here, but do I want to do something else? How am I going to follow up this? It's harmonizing this up here with what? You see? So that's kind of what I'd start playing with now. It's like, okay, how do you work that? Do I have something in here that I want to put in, or how would that work? What I can do is I can start putting kind of a fill pattern, that's similar to the same kind of line, but curved lines. So I'm kind of harmonizing small bits of line, and I'm going to, like I did for his hair, I'm going to do in the pattern, but there are going to be different kinds of shapes, different orientation of shapes that might exist within this zone. And then it's going to come down to, okay, how am I going to lead your eye by doing that throughout? How am I going to move your eye completely through the image? If I bring this around here, and then I'm going to bring it down in here, and right down into here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, maybe since I've got this pattern kind of going on in here, is there a secondary element? This is getting lost in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more line work, but I'm going to make it a little bit dark, like trying to get a little bit of a mass in there. Since I kept this in a mass and this in a mass, I can afford to keep this in a mass too. So as long as I'm maintaining that same bias, I can keep some of these things harmonized. If I'm using line, I can also take a lighter line, put a line like this that might help define a little bit more of that material. There we go. It's interesting when you start thinking about the marks you're putting down. You want to just draw, but and sometimes, let's try it on the next one. Just do a light lay-in. Just draw first, and then we'll make a plan. Okay? So if that works better for you, let's just start with that, and then we'll kind of go from there. I realize it is really different when you're looking at creating it, not just drawing what's there, representing what's there, but when you're also trying to plan what are your marks, what's your pattern, how are you going to move in and out of there, all at the same time. It can kind of be a bit overwhelming. So what we'll do is we'll take one step at a time this next time. Try that out. You got to be able to adapt and react. And that's really the fun of painting and drawing, really. But it's having the presence of mind, to continue on.